Hi everyone, this is Toni Chowdhury again, success strategist, helping people translate their big ideas into real action and a viable business. So last week, I had decided to start a series of videos called The Growing Pains of Startup Businesses. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to watch the first one of the series, but if you haven't, that's fine because I was only talking about, the different reasons why the successful people that we know of today, the wildly successful people, do not speak at length about their humble beginnings, and the different fears and struggles they've had when they started up. So if you missed that video, I'll post the link below this video and you can go watch that so that you kind of have an idea what I'm getting at. So without much ado, I wanted to talk about the reason I started my business. Over the past almost 17 years, I have been in Canada. Right now, I'm in Montreal. I am originally from India. And I came to Canada with a very young child. He was 3.5 years old when he and I came all the way across the world to Canada, hoping for a better life. The reason I came to Canada was I'd gotten divorced, and as a single parent, life would have been extremely difficult for me and my son if I were to live in India. So that's why I just took a chance. I have always been a risk taker, and I took the chance and applied for immigration to Canada. And I am so blessed that I have been able to make it all the way halfway around the world and call Canada my home now. So soon after I came, it was very hard because as an immigrant, I had to start from scratch and I had my bad days. But as I, stayed here longer and got better at different things, and I was able to find a job finally in my field of expertise, I started realizing that no matter what, I had a creative streak in me which I just couldn't, which I wanted to nurture. Plus, I'd moved around so much, I really didn't have a lot of friends around me, although I met wonderful people who have been my guardian angels and who have helped me through so much. But, they were in different cities as I moved around, and I didn't have a really close circle of friends here in Montreal. And that actually put me in a depression also because Montreal is primarily Francophone, and I do understand a little bit of French, but I don't speak it. So my doctor, recommended that I see a psychiatrist for my depression because, she told me that I was clinically depressed. And I didn't really want to give in to that. I didn't want to go on medication. And I thought that if anybody could help myself, it would be me. And that's when I picked up photography because photography has always been my passion. And even though I did a little bit of photography soon after I came to Canada, I didn't have a lot of chance of pursuing it. So when digital just started, I bought myself a camera and I started taking photos. But then soon I realized that, there was so much more I could do with that. And that's when I went and, I was anyway depressed and I was looking for something to keep me motivated, keep me going. And I just bought myself a nice DSLR and started learning more about photography. But before that, I was just, a point and shoot kind of person. Even though I loved taking photos, they weren't the greatest quality. And while doing that, I obviously, like most photographers, beginner photographers, I was drawn to nature and wildlife because I love nature and wildlife, being outside, just like I am right now, even though I'm sitting like in my car, and it's so cold and snowy outside, but it's just beautiful being outdoors. And that's how I started. I just picked up my camera. I would just go for a walk and, hours and hours, and I would practice my photography, come home, look at the pictures, and see where I could improve. And very soon after, my friends started, noticing my photography and started making, leaving very kind comments on Facebook. And then somebody, like a couple of my friends told me that, you should start doing portraits. I said no, like I don't like being in people's, personal space, and doing portraits would mean that I would do that. And I didn't want to do it. I was very opposed to the idea. But then I realized that, if I have to keep buying all the expensive gear that is required for photography, I would definitely have to somehow find a way to earn that extra money so I can indulge in my expensive toys. And that's when I started practicing with people. And very soon I found that, I got comfortable. I had some really great colleagues and friends who helped me with my portfolio. And I soon realized that, I could probably turn this into a side business. I didn't think much about what business would entail because I had very little idea. And if maybe you can go read my blog post, and I kind of describe what my experience with business was up to that point. So, however, I decided that's it. I'm going to start charging for my photos because people told me that, you're really good and you should be, asking for a fee. And that's how my photography business started. Little did I know what I was getting myself into, but it was a huge challenge because my photography improved, but my business skills didn't. And what was I thinking when I decided to get into business? Definitely not, thinking that I'd become like a very successful businesswoman or, a highly acclaimed photographer, even though that definitely is everybody's dream. And soon I realized that I didn't really have a lot of time to devote to business because I was just focusing too much on photography. And as a result, I just wasn't making any money. I had no business plan whatsoever. And I was going through the motions of doing one photo session after another and, asking for very little, money in return. And what happened was I started getting frustrated. And I realized that if this were to be my second source of income, and as a single parent, supporting everything, I definitely needed to have that extra money. And I think you might relate to, every one of us that start a side business, we do it for a couple of reasons. One could be that you need that extra income. Second could be that you are so sick of your job, you really want to do something on the side and then make that your primary source of livelihood. And the third thing is that you have a lot of time on hand. And, just like me at that time, because my son had, he was already a teenager and didn't need me as much, I had more time on hand. And I said, well, I'll devote it to pursuing my passion. But I, I think that most creative people and small businesses get into business without a plan, just like I did. And honestly speaking, there was very little out there that I could do because I didn't know where to start. And then one day I came across this photography website where I found that they are bringing in really renowned photographers and teaching classes online. So I became a member. I bought a couple of these workshops, online workshops, and started honing my photography and business skills as well, because each of these photographers would talk about their businesses a little bit, and I would start picking up small nuggets. But that's the way most of us start, again, unless you have a business degree. But you know what? Having a business degree is something, when you're working for someone. But again, utilizing that to start your own business, sometimes that is still tough. And I'm speaking out of experience because I do have a couple of coaching clients that have a business degree, but they still are struggling with their startup businesses. It's I think that it's mostly hands-on stuff that you do and you learn from. Sometimes, when we have a lot of knowledge, we become more cautious, and it doesn't really serve us. So of course, I threw caution to the wind because anyway, I have always been a risk taker, like I mentioned. And I said, you know what? I found this photographer who seems to be like really good, has a very good way of teaching. And I said, I'll just buy his workshop. And at that time, it was expensive. It was, I'm talking about 1,500 US dollars. And when I converted it to Canadian dollars, it was a lot of money. And then, of course, I'd have to fly to the US, I'd have to stay in a hotel, then, food and all that stuff would be adding up to a lot of money. But I decided that if you have to go far, you have to go together with someone who knows what they're doing. Clearly, this photographer was successful, and I wanted to follow some of his teachings and, get my business to a better place. He's a fantastic photographer. His name is Salvatore Sincata, so just Google him and look him up. He is not only a phenomenal photographer, he is an astounding businessman. And what I took away from that photography workshop was not just photography. I mostly took away some like terrific business skills, some ideas, some marketing ideas that completely blew my mind. And then on, I started, following him, and I started, taking his online workshops on business and everything. And that mentoring really helped. It really helped me turn my business around, where I started setting high goals for myself, doubling my revenue, and I achieved that. Year after year, for 3 years, I doubled my revenue over and over again. And that's how it all started. So I have to be very, very honest and say that I didn't have a big idea. I just knew that I had to make some extra money. I knew that I had to, find some clients, but I had no clue how difficult it could be. So I just jumped in the deep end of the pool, and then I was struggling to get to the surface and, just breathe. I think I'm going to keep it short again for this time. And I wanted to give you an idea of how I started my first business. I'm on to my second business right now, and I can talk about that in another video. But I do hope that you are finding some similarity in what you are, experiencing with what I experienced. Sometimes you just start a business because you get this harebrained idea, and then you think that, oh, well, I can, this is sellable, and I can turn it into a business venture. And I am certain a lot of people start like that, with just an inkling of an idea, and then they build on it. So in the beginning, there isn't always a lot of fear because you really don't know what you're getting into. Unless you've graduated from business school and you know what that entails, most people that start a business have no idea how far they have to go, how hard they have to work, how much hustle is involved in this. So I'll see you in the next video. And for the next video, I'll talk about maybe how I started up my second one and how different it was from when I started up my first business. So that'll probably give you an idea of, where I started and how much I've learned over the years before I started my second business. So how different it was when I started my second business. I hope to see you again in the next video. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel at the bottom and leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear if this is helping you at all. If you have questions, if there is something, that you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear about that as well, so I can address it in one of the, subsequent videos. So take care, stay focused on your success, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.